In some cultures, there are beings known as Jinn, entities created from smokeless fire, existing beyond human sight. And among them, there are names that are never spoken lightly. Names believed to belong to rulers, and one of those names is Mihrez. Hello, my friends. What I'm about to tell you is not just an ordinary story, because what I experienced has never truly left me. My name is Suli, short for Suleiman, and what I'm about to share are events I've lived through since childhood, things I still cannot explain. When I was a child, everything felt normal. At least, that's what I believed. We lived in a quiet rural area in Turkey, a small, peaceful place. Life was simple. Every day felt the same. But my father was different. I started noticing it at a young age, but I didn't understand what it meant. Sometimes I would wake up at night and hear him talking to himself. At first, I thought it was normal. Maybe he was praying. But over time, I realized something. It wasn't a prayer, because the words he spoke didn't belong to any language I knew. Some nights, my father would disappear. No one knew where he went. Whenever my mother asked, he always gave the same answer. I had work, but this work was something done in the middle of the night. And then, one night, everything changed. I woke up again that night. The house was completely silent. But this time, my father's voice wasn't coming from his room. It was coming from outside. I got curious. Slowly, I got out of bed. Carefully, I walked toward the door. I opened it slightly, and what I saw is something I will never forget. My father was standing in the empty land behind the house, but he wasn't alone. There was someone in front of him, but that someone was not human. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I opened the door a little more, and in that moment, my father suddenly stopped. Slowly, he turned his head, and he looked directly at me. That look, in that moment, I realized I had seen something I was never meant to see. That night, everything began, and I was pulled into something there was no way back from. The moment my father looked at me that night, something inside me broke, because there wasn't just anger in that look. There was a warning, as if he was telling me, it's too late now. After my father saw me, he stood still for a few seconds without moving. Then he slowly turned his head back toward the shadow in front of him. But that shadow was gone. I ran back inside as fast as I could. I quietly closed the door and got into my bed. My heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. I didn't sleep for a single second until morning. The next morning, my father acted completely normal, as if nothing had happened. He sat at the table, drank his tea, and talked to my mother, but he didn't look at me, not even once. And that made it even worse, because I knew he was hiding something, and I had started to feel how dangerous he could really be. After that day, the atmosphere inside the house changed. At night, I felt like someone was in the corner of my room. Sometimes I would wake up and see my door slightly open, even though I always made sure to close it before sleeping. One night, I saw a shadow passing under my door. There were no footsteps, but the shadow was there. It was long, thin, and not human. I wanted to run to my mother's room, but I couldn't. I was too scared. I just hid under my blanket and waited for the morning. When morning came, I found something small in front of my door. It looked like ash, but not exactly ash, as if something had burned, but hadn't completely disappeared. When I picked it up, my hand turned ice cold. That same day at school, strange things started happening. I kept zoning out during class. I could hear a low humming in my ears. The teacher asked me a question, but I couldn't answer, because at that exact moment, I saw someone standing at the back of the classroom, dressed completely in black. I couldn't see their face. I looked for a second, and then they were gone. When I got home, my father was sitting in the yard. As soon as he saw me, he gestured for me to come closer. For the first time, he was looking at me this seriously. "What did you see last night?" he asked. I lied. I didn't see anything. My father lowered his head. Then slowly, he said, "Seeing certain things changes a person." That night, the sounds started again. This time, they were closer, as if they were coming from inside the walls. It sounded like whispers, but it wasn't just one voice. It felt like multiple voices speaking at the same time. I covered my ears, but the sounds didn't stop. And at that moment, my bedroom door slowly opened on its own, and standing in the doorway was my father. He was holding an old cloth bag. He reached inside and took out a small amulet. He tried to put it around my neck. I pulled back. "Wear this," he said. "Otherwise, they won't leave you alone." "Who?" I asked. My father didn't answer. He just looked into my eyes and said, "They've started to hear your name." That night, for the first time, I heard a name whispered through the voices. Mirez. They say, the moment you hear a name, that name begins to hear you as well. I never believed that until that night. When I woke up in the morning, the amulet my father gave me was around my neck. I didn't remember when he put it on me. I tried to take it off, but the knot wouldn't come undone. I tried cutting it with scissors. The scissors broke. When my mother saw me in the kitchen, she noticed something. She looked at the amulet on my neck and went silent for a moment. Then she asked quietly, "Did your father give that to you?" I nodded. My mother's face turned pale. "No matter what happens, don't take it off," she said. "And when night falls, don't leave your room." It was the first time I had ever seen my mother this afraid. She had lived with my father for years, but it was as if she knew nothing about him. All day, my mother didn't open the curtains. She started covering the mirrors in the house. Why? I asked. She only said one thing: don't look at them at night. When night fell, the electricity suddenly went out. Power outages happened in this village, but this was different. It felt like the darkness was only inside our house. When I looked outside, the neighbors still had their lights on. Only our house was dark. My father had drawn a circle on the floor in the living room. He had poured salt around it. In the center, he placed an old copper bowl. He filled it with water. Then he looked at me and said, "No matter what happens, do not step outside this circle." "What's happening?" I asked. For the first time, my father spoke clearly. "They want you." "Who are they?" My father didn't answer. He closed his eyes, and his lips began to move again. That same strange language, but this time it was harsher, faster. The air inside the house grew heavy. It became hard to breathe. The water inside the copper bowl began to tremble, as if something invisible was touching it. Then a shape appeared on the surface of the water. At first, it looked like smoke, then like a face, but it wasn't human. It had eyes, but they were empty. It had a mouth, but it didn't move. And then a voice spoke. It wasn't my father, it wasn't my mother. The voice came from the room itself. "Give him." My mother screamed. My father shouted, "Don't say his name!" But the voice repeated, "Give him. Mirez is waiting." I was inside the circle. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't move. The amulet around my neck began to burn. It was really burning. When I touched it, my palm turned red. My father suddenly knocked over the copper bowl. The moment the water spilled, the voice stopped. The house fell silent again. But that silence wasn't normal. It felt like something hadn't left. It was just hiding. That night, my father didn't tell me everything. He only said this: "I opened a door years ago, and now that door won't close." The price of the door my father opened was being paid by me, and Mirez was only just beginning. Some secrets are kept within a family. Some are taken to the grave. But the secret in our house was too big to be buried. The next day, my father took me to the old storage behind the house. He always kept it locked, never let anyone in. When he opened the door, a heavy smell hit me. Dirt, dampness, and something burned. There were old writings and symbols on the walls that I couldn't understand. Black candle remains on the floor, dried herbs, and in the center, a cracked stone. My father stood in front of the stone. "Years ago," he said, "I made a very big mistake. When he was young, for money, for power, for protection, he got involved with the wrong people. They gave him a name, Mirez. If you call him by his name, he comes. he said. Did he come? I asked. My father didn't answer. He just stared at the stone. Then he continued, I made a deal. They gave me what I wanted, but in return, they wanted something. What did they want? My father's voice trembled. The first son. For a moment, I didn't understand. Then something cold sank into me. Me? I said. My father lowered his head. In that moment, I hated him. Everything I had lived through for years, the whispers, the shadows, the nightmares, it was all because of him. I screamed. I went silent. I cried. That night, I decided to leave the house. My mother was asleep. My father was outside. I packed my bag quietly and walked to the door. Just as I was about to open it, I heard a voice behind me. If you leave, they will find you faster. It was my father. He was holding that cloth bag again. This time, he took out a paper. There were names written on it. I didn't recognize some of them, but when I saw one, my breath stopped. My name. There was a date next to it. Tomorrow. What happens tomorrow? I asked. My father looked me in the eyes and said, either they take you or I take your place. That night, we started hearing footsteps around the house. Not one, several, but no one was there. Only marks in the ground. Marks that didn't belong to human feet. The house began to shake. Then all the candles went out at once. From the darkness, a single voice spoke. Make your choice. My father stepped forward and said, not him. Take me. When midnight passed, the air inside the house changed. It felt like the walls were breathing and the ground was trembling. My father took a step forward and said those words, not him, take me. In that moment, everything went silent. The whispers stopped. The footsteps disappeared. Even the wind vanished. The voice from the darkness was closer this time. You are too late. My father fell to his knees and lowered his head. I came to pay the price for the mistake I made years ago, he said. Leave my child. The candles lit themselves again. None of us touched them. My mother was crying. I was frozen. There was fear, but also anger, because he was the one who brought me into this night. The voice spoke again. The deal cannot be broken. My father lifted his head. I made the deal. I will pay the price. Then a shadow emerged from the darkness. It was taller than a human, but its shape kept changing. It had no eyes, but you could feel it staring. The shadow stopped outside the circle. Say my name. My father whispered, Mirez. The moment I heard that name, the windows cracked. I covered my ears, but the sound was inside my mind. The child is marked, it said. I will not leave him. My father shouted, remove his name, write mine instead. The copper bowl moved on its own. My father took a knife, cut his palm. Blood dripped into the bowl. The house began to shake, and the circle started glowing. One life in exchange for another. My father said, "Me." Then he stepped outside the circle. I screamed, "Don't go." He didn't turn back. "This is my debt," he said. The shadow rose in front of him. All the lights exploded. Darkness filled the house. Then a violent wind hit us, and suddenly, silence. When I opened my eyes, my father was gone. I found a note. The name was not erased, and below it, my name. Years passed, but some nights I wake up at 3:17. I see a shadow, and I hear one word: waiting. My father sacrificed himself, but the deal never ended. Some doors never fully close, and some entities are very patient. I thought I had escaped, but in reality, I was only waiting. Years had passed. I had left that village behind, built a new life in a new city. I was waking up less at night. The whispers had almost completely stopped. I had started to fool myself. "It's over," I would say. "Everything is behind me." But one night, I woke up again at 3:17. This time, it was different. The air in my room felt heavy, as if someone was breathing inside. Slowly, I turned my head, and I saw it. In the corner, a shadow, clearer than before. It was no longer just a silhouette. It was real. For the first time, its shape was stable. My heart felt like it would stop. I couldn't stand. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow slowly moved closer, and in that moment, the amulet on my neck began to heat up. For years, I had never removed it, and now the string was loosening on its own. "No," I whispered, but it was too late. The amulet fell to the ground. The shadow stepped closer, and for the first time, I heard a voice, not a whisper, clear, deep, very close.
"You can't hide anymore."
That voice was Mihre's. The room began to darken. The walls bent inward. Breathing became impossible. I ran to the door. It wouldn't open. I felt something behind me. I didn't want to turn, but I did. And for the first time, I truly saw it. It was no longer a shadow. Tall, distorted, almost human. It had no face, but where a face should be, there was a dark void. And inside that void, countless eyes were staring at me. I fell to my knees. "Your father thought he paid the debt," it said, but the door remained open. That's when I understood. This wasn't a deal. It was a chain. "Now it's your turn." Just then, the amulet began to glow. It lifted on its own and moved between us. The room filled with light. Not white, something like glowing smoke. Mihrez stepped back for the first time. A scream echoed, not in my ears, but in my mind. Then I heard a voice. My father's voice. Run! I didn't think. I ran. This time, the door opened. Behind me, glass shattered. I kept running. Until morning. When I woke up, the amulet was gone. But something remained. Ash. Not quite ash. Just like when I was a child. That's when I understood. My father never truly left. Not completely. Now, some nights, I see two shadows. One watches me. The other stops him. Some deals are written in blood. Some doors never close. And some wars last for generations. Thank you for listening to my story. See you in new stories.